They said the Galactic Court was the most intimidating place in the universe, a cathedral of golden light. A cathedral where mortals came to beg the favor of the godlike. To me it looked like someone had taken a cathedral, melted it in a supernova, and rebuilt it out of pure ego. I was standing in front of a throne the size of a shop, carved from something that shimmered like liquid sunlight. On it sat Empress Veyara, ruler of the Celestian Dominion, breaker of armies, enslaver of worlds, and, apparently, wearer of very little armor for someone surrounded by so many sharp objects. Her voice was velvet wrapped around a dagger when she said, "You may choose any woman you desire." Human, there it was. The line, the cosmic equivalent of help yourself to anything from the minibar. The court fell silent. Hundreds of jeweled, titanium-plated aliens watching as I, Jack Reddan, last representative of Earth, weighed my options like a man picking a sandwich under the gaze of a goddess. Any woman I desired. And I desired her. She sat with one leg crossed over the other, her crown gleaming like the teeth of a black hole. Her gaze said, "I could destroy you," and I found that oddly motivating, so I said it. "I want you." The court gasped. Somewhere in the back, a dignitary actually choked on his drink. The sound echoed through the hall like an ill-timed trumpet solo. Veyara's smile was slow, dangerous. "You have courage, human." "I prefer to call it poor decision-making," I said, trying to look confident while my heart attempted a jailbreak through my ribs. "Do you even know what you ask for?" she purred. "Judging by your armor," I said. A conversation and possibly several life-threatening misunderstandings. Her hand tightened around the armrest. "Do you think to make light of me?" "I think to survive, your radiant excellency. Humor's all I've got left since you vaporized my ship," the audience murmured. I was fairly sure that in most of their cultures, this counted as flirting, or treason. Maybe both. She rose from the throne, every movement deliberate, the kind of grace that makes your evolutionary instincts want to kneel. When she stopped in front of me, I realized she was taller than I expected, or maybe I was just shorter than I wanted to be. "Tell me," she said, tilting her head. "Why should I grant you me?" "Because," I said, "I'm the only man in this room who isn't afraid of you." That wasn't true. I was absolutely terrified, but she didn't need to know that. And maybe she found honesty overrated. Her eyes, silver with a faint halo, studied me for a long taut moment. Then she laughed. Not the kind of laugh that says you're funny, but the kind that says you amuse me and might live a little longer because of it. "You are bold," she said. "Boldness is a dangerous thing to bring before my throne." "I was going to bring flowers," I said, "but my ship exploded." The laughter rippled again through the court. She smirked, then gestured for the guards to step back. Her tone shifted, velvet soft but razor sharp. "Very well. Human, you will dine with me tonight. Perhaps I will see whether your mouth is as clever as your tongue." "Ah," I said. "So it's a date." Her expression flickered between outrage and amusement, the way a cat looks at a laser pointer. "It is an evaluation. I've had worse first dates." She turned up, her silver cape flowing like liquid metal, and I caught the faintest flick of her hair as she said, "We shall see if you still joke when dessert is served." The guards ushered me away, but I could still feel her gaze burning into me, half challenge, half invitation. The palace was ridiculous. If you took the Taj Mahal, the Louvre, and a luxury spaceship, smashed them together, and sprinkled them with liquid arrogance, you'd get something close. The corridors glowed with a gold-white light that hummed faintly, as if the walls themselves were gossiping. My escort was a six-eyed creature named Threx, whose species looked like someone had crossbred a gorilla with a crystal chandelier. "You are unusual for a human," Threx said, walking beside me. "I get that a lot. She usually disintegrates anyone who speaks to her without permission." "Ah, so I'm special." Threx made a noise like a blender full of gravel, or suicidal. I like to think of it as romantic. He blinked 6 times in perfect synchronization. "Romantic?" "Yeah," I said. "You know, risking death for beauty, throwing caution to the solar winds, that kind of thing." He tilted his head. "In my culture, we call that poor judgment." "Same thing," I said. "We just use better lighting." When we reached the guest quarters, Threx paused. "You will be served the Empress's chosen meal. Do not insult it. Do not make jokes. And above all, do not mention her crown." "Why not?" "It is ... sensitive." "Noted," I said. "No crown jokes." He gave me a look that said, "You will die anyway," then stomped off. Dinner was an experience. The dining hall looked like a spaceship had crashed into Versailles and decided to stay. The table was long enough to land a shuttle on, and there were more utensils than I had in my entire apartment back on Earth. The Empress entered, her armor replaced with something softer but no less intimidating. A gown that seemed woven from moonlight and authority. I stood, because I wasn't suicidal enough to stay seated. She sat across from me. Between us, an array of dishes shimmered, none of which looked remotely edible. One was still moving. "Your world must seem small compared to this," she said, her tone casual but her eyes sharp. "I don't know," I said. "We've got pizza." She frowned. "What is ... pizza?" "It's like intergalactic diplomacy, but with cheese." Her brow furrowed. "You mock me again." "Only with admiration." "Your radiance." She leaned forward, chin resting on her hand. "Tell me, Jack Reddan, what do humans value most? Power, wealth, Survival. Coffee, I said without hesitation. She blinked. Coffee. It's a beverage. Keeps us from killing each other before noon. Her lips twitched the faintest trace of amusement. You are strange. Human. Thank you. I take that as a compliment. I did not mean it as one. I still will. She sighed, but I caught the hint of a smile before she hid it behind her goblet. We talked, or rather, she interrogated me about Earth, humanity, war, and why we kept blowing up our own planet for fun. I tried to explain politics, which earned me a look that said she was considering conquering Earth just to enforce sanity. Eventually, she said, "You humans, you burn bright. Briefly, you create beauty only to destroy it." Yeah, I said, but sometimes, what we build in the ashes is better. She studied me quietly. For a moment I thought I saw something soften in her curiosity, maybe even longing. Then she said, "You speak well for a prisoner. I've been called worse on dates." She nearly choked on her drink. I grinned. Was that a laugh? "Your radiance." She composed herself instantly. "Do not presume." "Too late," I said. "I already am." For the first time, she didn't have a reply. Later that night, I was escorted to my quarters. As I passed through the gold corridors, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere Veyara was watching. Maybe intrigued, maybe plotting, maybe both. In my room, I found a note on the table written in elegant alien script translated automatically by the palace AI. "You amuse me, human. Be careful, amusement is dangerous in my court." Vi smirked and muttered to myself, "Story of my life." Outside the window, twin moons hung over the alien city, a skyline of silver and flame. Somewhere out there, the most powerful woman in the galaxy was wondering what to do with one stubborn human who didn't know when to shut up. And for once, I liked the odds. Morning on Celesta Prime was the kind of spectacular that made you question your own existence. The twin suns rose in perfect synchrony, spilling gold and blue light across a skyline of glass spires and floating gardens. It was so beautiful, it almost made you forget you were technically a hostage. Almost I woke up to find a 7'6" butler standing over me holding a silver tray. "Breakfast, human," he said. I blinked. "You ever heard of knocking?" I did. You did not respond. I was asleep. "In this palace," he said solemnly, "that is not a valid excuse." I sighed and sat up. "You people really don't understand mornings, huh? We do not have mornings. The Empress abolished time in her presence." "Right," I muttered, "because that's perfectly normal." On the tray was something that looked like scrambled eggs. If scrambled eggs had been designed by an alien fashion committee, they shimmered in pastel hues and made a faint humming noise, like a choir of bees. I stared at them. "They're safe for humans?" I asked. The butler blinked all 6 eyes. "They did not kill the last one." "That's comforting." I ate carefully, half expecting my tongue to dissolve. It didn't. The food was weirdly delicious, sweet, spicy, and slightly electric, like licking a lemon during a thunderstorm. When I finished, the butler said, "The Empress has summoned you already. She said she enjoys watching your confusion." "Yeah," I muttered. "That tracks." The throne room was less crowded than yesterday, just a few advisors, guards, and the Empress herself sitting like divine wrath wrapped in silk. Her outfit today was black and gold, with intricate patterns that looked suspiciously like constellations. I had the distinct feeling she'd chosen it to remind everyone that she literally ruled the stars. "Human," she said, her voice echoing through the vast hall. "Morning, Your Radiance. You survived breakfast." "Barely," she smirked. "Your resilience continues to surprise me." "I aim to exceed expectations." "You aim to survive your own mouth," she corrected. "Same thing, really." Her eyes narrowed, but there was a flicker of amusement. "Today, you will accompany me to the Council of Sectors." "Is that like your version of Parliament?" "It is where I pretend to listen to people before doing what I intended anyway." "Ah," I said, "just like home." She gave me a look that said she wasn't sure whether to disintegrate me or buy me a drink. "You will stand beside me and remain silent." Got it. Standing and silence, my 2 best skills. The council chamber was circular and enormous, filled with representatives from every corner of the Dominion, insectoid diplomats clicking their mandibles, crystalline beings refracting the light, reptilian generals who looked like they bench-pressed meteors, and there I was, the lone human, trying not to trip over my own dignity. As Veyara took her seat, the chamber fell silent. She nodded for the first speaker, a squat, amphibious creature whose robe looked like it had been stolen from a seaweed forest. "Your Radiance," the creature croaked, "we must discuss the human." The others see his presence as provocative. Veyara's gaze shifted to me, then back to the counselor. "He amuses me." "That is not an argument of statecraft," the amphibian said. "It is my empire," she replied. "An amusement is a matter of state." The room went dead quiet. I tried very hard not to grin. Failed spectacularly. A reptilian general hissed, "This creature disrespects us merely by existing among us." I raised a hand. "Technically, I'm not doing it merely. I put in effort." A collective hiss echoed through the chamber. Veyara's hand flicked slightly, a silent command, and the entire room fell still. Her voice was calm, almost lazy. General, are you suggesting I cannot control one human? The general froze. No, your radiance. Good, because I assure you, if I wished him gone, he would be nothing but an echo. Then she looked at me. Wouldn't you, Jack? Echoing's one of my few marketable skills. The faintest curve touched her lips. See, perfectly obedient. The council session continued, a blur of political jargon and power plays. I zoned out halfway through, distracted by the fact that every time Veyara spoke, the entire room leaned in like gravity itself bent around her. I couldn't help thinking if charisma were a weapon, she could have conquered the galaxy without firing a shot. Afterward, we walked through the garden terraces, a surreal maze of floating platforms, glowing plants, and waterfalls that flowed upward. Veyara moved beside me in silence, her expression unreadable. Finally she said, "You embarrassed a general. He started it. You provoked him." Technically, he provoked himself. I just assisted. She stopped, turning to face me. "Why do you insist on testing everyone around you? It's a human thing. We push buttons to see what happens. And if the result is destruction, then we learn faster." She studied me, eyes narrowing as if trying to see through every layer of sarcasm. "You are either a fool or a genius. I like to keep people guessing." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, unexpectedly, she laughed, not the dangerous kind this time, but a real, genuine laugh. It was warm, bright, almost human. "I cannot decide whether you are infuriating or delightful," she said. "I'll take both. Keeps things interesting." She shook her head, but I caught the hint of a smile she didn't quite manage to hide. Later that evening, I was summoned again, this time to her private study. It was smaller than the throne room but no less impressive. A mix of ancient books, alien artifacts, and star maps that stretched across the walls like constellations frozen in motion. Veyara was seated by the window, watching the twin moons rise. "You may sit," she said. I took the chair opposite hers. "Am I being interrogated again, or is this just a social call?" "Perhaps both." "Good, I was worried you'd gone soft." Her eyebrow arched. "Careful, human, can't help it. My mouth's unionized." She sighed. "You risk your life with words, yet you do not fear me." "Oh, I do," I said, "but fear is not the same as respect." She looked intrigued. "Explain." "You can fear a storm," I said, "but you can also admire it. You don't have to kneel to be amazed." Her gaze softened just for a heartbeat. "And do you admire me?" I smiled. "Constantly. It's interfering with my ability to think straight." That earned me a small, dangerous smirk. "You are fortunate that amuses me." "Yeah," I said, leaning back. "I'm starting to think amusement's the only thing keeping me alive." "Perhaps," she said, standing, "or perhaps I see something in you that I do not yet understand." She walked to a shelf, picking up a crystal sphere that glowed faintly. "Do you know why I ruled the Dominion, Jack Reddan? I'm guessing it's not because of your charming personality." She ignored that. "Because I am the only one who believes we deserve to rule it. Power is not inherited here. It is taken, claimed, and defended." "Sounds exhausting," I said. "On Earth, we just vote badly." Her lips twitched again. "You humans, you destroy your own world and still make jokes. It's how we cope." She turned toward me, eyes like molten silver. "Then teach me." I blinked. "Teach you how to cope?" "Yes," she said. "How to laugh at ruin." For a moment, the room seemed too quiet. The idea of an empress, a woman who commanded galaxies, asking a nobody human for lessons in laughter. It was absurd, touching, and oddly intimate all at once. "All right," I said. "First lesson, irony. You're already halfway there." She frowned. "Irony. It's when the universe mocks you and you pretend you're in on the joke." She tilted her head. "That sounds cruel." "It is," I said, "but it's also freeing." Her eyes lingered on me for a long time, and I felt the tension shift, no longer predator and prey, but something subtler. Curiosity. Connection. "Perhaps," she said softly, "there is more to your kind than chaos." "Maybe," I said, "or maybe we just fake it really well." She actually smiled at that, a small, quiet smile that made her look almost human. By the time I returned to my quarters, my brain was a mess. Veyara, the Empress of 1,000 worlds, had asked me to teach her how to laugh. Either I was making progress, or I was in way too deep. Probably both. Threx was waiting outside my door. The Empress seems entertained. That's one word for it. She has not smiled in years. Human, be wary. Those who make her smile rarely live long. "Yeah," I said. "I'm starting to notice a theme." He stared at me with 6 unblinking eyes. "You are either very brave or very stupid." "Why does everyone keep saying that?" He rumbled softly. "Because it is true." As he left, I looked out the window again at the alien skyline, the twin moons, the endless stars beyond. Somewhere out there was Earth, probably still arguing about pizza toppings. And here I was, teaching the most powerful woman in the galaxy about irony. Honestly, I'd had worse Tuesdays. I picked up another note from my desk, same elegant handwriting as before. "Tomorrow, you will show me how humans relax. Prepare accordingly." I groaned. "Oh, this is going to go terribly." Still, I couldn't help smiling, because for all the danger, all the absurdity, one thing was becoming very clear. Empress Veyara wasn't just terrifying, She was fascinating, and I might just be falling for her. The next morning started with two realizations. 1. I was still alive. 2. Had somehow agreed to teach the Empress of the Dominion how to relax. That second part felt more dangerous. Peered outside my quarters again, looking like an annoyed chandelier. You are expected in the lower gardens, he said. Bring whatever humans require for relaxation. Usually that's coffee and low expectations, I told him, shoving a small travel mug into my jacket pocket. But I'll improvise. The lower gardens were breathtaking. Terraces of shimmering plants, floating ponds, and golden koi that occasionally turned into light and back again. Veyara stood at the center, wearing something that wasn't armor, just a simple tunic, silvery fabric that somehow made her look more regal than any crown. I tried not to stare. I failed immediately. Human, she said, I have cleared 2 hours from my schedule. Demonstrate this relaxation to ours. Wow, that's, what, half your reign? Her eyes narrowed. Do not test me so early. Right. Step 1, I said, gesturing toward a bench under a massive crystal-leafed tree. Sit. She eyed the bench like it might explode. That is all. Trust me, sitting is an underrated human art form. After a long pause, she lowered herself onto the bench, posture still perfect, gaze still imperial. I sat beside her. Now I said, breathe. I am breathing. No, breathe like you mean it, in, out. Forget ruling the galaxy for a minute. She gave me a look that could have vaporized steel but did as instructed. In, out. The sound of her exhale mingled with the soft hum of the gardens. For the first time since I'd met her, she looked almost peaceful. Almost. This is unusual, she admitted. That's the point. You're supposed to stop thinking about conquering for 5 minutes. And what do humans think about? Food, love, memes, the usual. She frowned. Memes. Never mind. It's a long story and ends with regret. She studied me and love. You mentioned that second. I shrugged. Yeah, humans spend most of their time either falling into it, out of it, or pretending they're not. Her lips curved slightly. And which are you, currently? Falling into trouble. Her laugh was quick, surprised, and musical. You may yet survive this day. Human. I decided she needed a practical demonstration. All right, your radiance. We're going to try something radical. A picnic. I am familiar with the term, she said. Outdoor consumption of sustenance. Primitive. Exactly. And perfect. Servants appeared out of nowhere, terrified but efficient, laying down a floating blanket and a few covered trays. When they left, Veyara appeared at the setup suspiciously. Is this meant to be enjoyable? Give it a chance, I said, handing her a sandwich-like item I'd convinced the kitchen AI to replicate. It's called a grilled cheese. Humanity's greatest diplomatic achievement. She examined it like it might hold state secrets. It appears oily, that's the best part. She took a small bite, chewed, then blinked. This is warm. It's comfort food. You can't conquer galaxies on an empty stomach. Her second bite was larger. I see why your species survives despite itself. High praise, I said, coming from someone whose people probably eat lightning for breakfast. She tilted her head. We do not eat lightning. Often. Of course you don't. We sat there, eating in awkward silence for a while. The wind shifted through the crystal trees. I risked a glance at her and realized she was watching me. Not the throne room stare, but something quieter, curious, maybe even fond. You miss your world, she said softly. Yeah, I admitted. I miss gravity that doesn't fluctuate with mood. For starters, but mostly, the noise. Earth's loud, messy, stupid. But it's ours. She looked out toward the glowing horizon. My empire is perfect, ordered, efficient, and yet it is empty, sometimes. That's the trade-off, I said. You get peace, you lose chaos. Humans thrive on chaos, she smirked. You exemplify that. I try my best. After the picnic, I introduced her to a human invention that would either amuse her or cause my execution. The card game. This is called war, I said, dealing the cards. The irony will hit you in about 5 seconds. She picked up the cards delicately. Explain the rules. Highest card wins each round. That is all. That's the beauty of it. We played. She won. Repeatedly. After the 6th round, I frowned. Are you cheating? Of course not, she said, perfectly innocent. I am simply superior. That's exactly what a cheater would say. She raised an eyebrow. Careful. Human. Insulting an empress is treason. Calling out cheating isn't treason. It's sportsmanship. Her grin turned wicked. You are brave to taunt someone who commands armies. I'm not taunting. I'm flirting with consequences. Her expression faltered for half a second. Surprise. Maybe before she covered it with a laugh. You are impossible. And you like that, I said. Perhaps I do. The silence that followed was heavy, charged. Her gaze lingered on me longer than it should have. For a heartbeat, the Empress of 1,000 worlds looked very human. Then she cleared her throat. Enough of your primitive games. Show me another method of relaxation. I thought for a moment. All right, music. We moved to a smaller chamber overlooking the city. I pulled a small device from my pocket, a survival tool, communicator, and, most importantly, music player. This, I said, is the pinnacle of human stress management. I tapped the screen. A slow jazz tune filled the room. Warm, lazy, perfect. Veyara's brows knit. It is strange. Good strange. Perhaps it feels alive. That's the idea. She moved closer to the window, the light glinting off her silver tunic. It has no discipline, no order. Exactly, I said. It's about emotion. Improvisation. Letting go. She turned, her expression softer. And you wish me to do that, just for a minute. For once, she hesitated. Then, almost reluctantly, she let her shoulders relax, her breathing slow. I watched the transformation, the Empress uncoiling, just slightly. The sound of saxophone filled the space between us. After a while, she said quietly, "This feels dangerous." "Relaxing usually does," I said. "You have to stop controlling everything." "I am not certain I can." "Then you're halfway there." She looked at me, truly looked. And for a moment there was no empire, no throne, no titles, just her and me. Two people listening to the same song and pretending the universe wasn't watching. When the music ended, she whispered, "I understand now. Your people survive because you refuse to surrender to despair." "Yeah," I said. "And because of grilled cheese." Her laughter broke the spell, light, genuine, and entirely disarming. That night, I found another note on my table. "You succeeded. I have not felt peace in years. Tomorrow you will join me at the great conclave. Wear something worthy of mockery. Mockery. Wonderful. I was definitely in love with this woman. The conclave was a diplomatic nightmare, a gathering of ambassadors from rival galaxies. Everyone shimmered with arrogance and jewelry. I wore the only thing I could find that fit, a ceremonial robe the color of bad decisions. When I entered the hall, the laughter was immediate. Veyara turned, saw me, and nearly lost composure. "You obeyed to literally," she murmured. "You said worthy of mockery." I delivered. She tried and failed not to smile. "You are incorrigible. That's on my resume." Throughout the meeting she maintained perfect regal poise, but every so often, when someone droned on about trade routes, I'd catch her glancing my way, the corner of her mouth twitching. It was a small victory, the kind that made the whole galaxy feel a little less cold. After the conclave, as the guests dispersed, she approached me privately. "You made me laugh in front of them," she said. "Guilty. They will think me weak. They'll think you're human," I said. "That's scarier." She paused. Then, quietly, "Perhaps you are right." "Usually am," I said. "Eventually." Her expression softened, the steel melting into something warmer. "Do you have a dangerous influence, Jack Reddan? Tell me something I don't know." She stepped closer, just enough that I could see the faint glow in her eyes. "I begin to see why your species survives everything. You make chaos charming." "Thanks," I said. "We try to be lovable disasters." Her laugh was soft, private, and perhaps, she said, "I am beginning to enjoy the disaster." Before I could respond, she turned and walked away, leaving me standing amid the echoes of laughter, diplomacy, and something dangerously close to affection. That night, lying awake in my quarters, I replayed her words again and again. The Empress who'd conquered galaxies was starting to enjoy me, which meant I was either the luckiest human alive or the next cosmic tragedy waiting to happen. Either way, I couldn't stop smiling. By the next sunrise, half the palace was buzzing with rumors. The human and the Empress had laughed together, twice, in the same solar rotation. For a civilization that measured affection in centuries, that was practically an interstellar scandal. Threx met me outside my room, looking more distressed than usual. "The conclave delegates are in uproar. They say you have bewitched the Empress." "I'm flattered," I said, "but if I had that kind of power, I'd use it to get better coffee." He ignored me. "There are whispers of a coup because she smiled. Because she smiled at you." I rubbed my temples. "Galactic politics are exhausting." "You may wish to avoid the throne room today," Threx said. "The Empress has summoned the High Command." "Yeah," I said. "Avoiding things isn't really my strong suit." When I entered the throne room, the air was thick with tension. Rows of generals stood rigid, eyes flicking between Veyara and me. She sat on her throne, radiant and calm, the embodiment of composure with a storm hiding behind her smile. "Human," she said, "you will stand beside me." That didn't sound ominous at all. One of the admirals stepped forward, a towering reptilian whose voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Your Radiance, this creature undermines your authority. The Council demands his removal." "Removal," I said. "You mean yes," the Admiral said, baring sharp teeth. "Permanently." I turned to Veyara. "You know, back home we'd handle this with HR paperwork." Her gaze flicked to me, sharp and unreadable. Silence. The Admiral continued. "This human spreads weakness. He infects the court with levity." In my defense, I said, "I spread humor, not weakness. Totally different microbes." The court erupted in scandalized murmurs. The Admiral roared. "You mock this assembly." "Constantly," I said. "It's kind of my thing." The Empress rose slowly. Every whisper died. She descended the steps toward me, each stride deliberate, regal. "Tell me, human," she said softly, "are you afraid?" "Terrified," I admitted. just hiding it behind charm. You have brought chaos to my court. Yeah, I said, but you smiled. But you smiled. The silence that followed was the longest of my life. Then, to everyone's horror, she laughed, a clear, genuine laugh that shattered the tension like glass. Enough, she said to the generals. He is under my protection. You will not question it. But, Your Radiance, the Admiral began. Her voice turned to steel. Do you challenge your Empress? The Admiral hesitated, then bowed low. Never. Then leave us. The hall emptied in record time. When the doors closed, she turned to me, eyes gleaming. You are going to get yourself killed, she said. Probably. I said, but at least I'll die interesting. She sighed, half exasperated, half amused. You risk everything for humor. For you, I said, there's a difference. That caught her off guard. For a moment, the Empress forgot how to breathe. You would risk your life for me, she asked. Already did. Multiple times. You just didn't notice. She stepped closer, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off her. And why? She asked, voice barely a whisper. Because, I said, I like the person you are when you laugh. The words hung in the air, fragile and dangerous. Then she did something that made every rule of the Dominion irrelevant. She reached out and touched my hand, just lightly, like testing the gravity of a new world. Humans, she murmured, always reckless with your heart's occupational hazard. Before either of us could make sense of that moment, the palace alarms blinked. Red light flooded the chamber. A holographic officer appeared, bowing hastily. Your Radiance, a rebel fleet has emerged from hyperspace. They demand your surrender. Veyara's composure snapped back instantly. Mobilize the defense grid, already failing majesty. They have a disruptor field. She turned to me. You bring chaos wherever you go. Human's my brand, I said. Want help? She gave me a look halfway between disbelief and resignation. You cannot possibly look. I used to pilot ships badly but enthusiastically. She hesitated. Then fine. Come with me. We sprinted through the golden corridors to the command deck. Outside, through the vast transparent walls, the rebel ships glittered against the twin suns, dozens of them. Sleek and angry status, Veyara snapped. Shields compromised. Weapons charging, an officer replied. I scanned the control panels. The tech was centuries beyond anything I'd seen. But the basics were still there. Energy readings, trajectory, panic. Your disruptor field's feeding on its own reflection, I said. They're bouncing your power back at you. She frowned. Explain. Your shield harmonics are tuned too close to their signal. It's like yelling into your own microphone. You can fix this. I can make it worse in an interesting way. Do it. That was all the permission I needed. I grabbed a console, rerouted an energy line, and reversed the polarity of the defense grid. The palace shook. Lights flickered. For a terrifying moment, I thought I'd just vaporized us all. Then the external feeds showed the rebel fleet scattering, their ships spinning out of formation. It worked, the officer gasped. Veyara turned to me, astonished. You guessed correctly. I call it strategic improvisation. She stared at me for a long time and then, unbelievably, smiled. You are either a genius or a maniac. Both. It's a package deal. After the crisis, the palace celebrated the victory. I found myself back in the gardens that evening, exhausted but alive. The suns were setting, painting the sky in colors that didn't exist back home. Veyara appeared beside me. No guards this time. No armor, just her. You saved my empire, she said. I got lucky, I said. Again, you improvised against an entire fleet. Yeah, well, I figured if I was going to die, might as well do it with style. She shook her head. You continue to defy logic. That's what humans do best. There was a pause, heavy with everything we weren't saying. Finally, she said, I have conquered worlds, Jack Reddan, but not one of them ever dared to laugh in my presence. Until you, I'm honored, and a little concerned. She stepped closer. When I first saw you, I thought you were foolish. Now I think you are something far more dangerous. Charming, human, she said, almost fondly. Utterly, dangerously human. I grinned. So what happens now? She hesitated, then said softly, now, I choose. I swallowed. Choose what? Whether to keep you here or let you go before you destroy my composure completely. Option 3, I said. Keep me around and let me destroy it slowly. Her laugh was quiet, genuine, and absolutely worth dying for. Weeks passed. The court adjusted grudgingly to the idea of their empress keeping a human advisor who drank too much coffee and told bad jokes. Veyara remained every bit the ruler she'd always been. But sometimes, when no one else was watching, she'd smile at something small, a sunrise, a song, a sarcastic remark, and I'd know that humanity had left its mark. One evening, as we stood on the balcony overlooking the galaxy, she said, You taught me how to laugh, Jack. What will you teach me next? I thought for a moment, maybe how to dance. Dance. It's like fighting, but you lose on purpose. She tilted her head, amused. Show me. So I did clumsily, barefoot on alien marble, with music humming faintly from my pocket. She followed, awkward at first, then graceful, her movements precise but softer than I'd ever seen. When the song ended, she didn't step back. She just looked at me and said, You have changed everything. Good, I said. It was getting boring. Her smile was slow and dangerous. "You are impossible, and you love it." She didn't deny it. Later I'd tell myself I stayed for diplomatic reasons, for the advancement of humanity, for the sake of galactic peace. But the truth was simpler. I stayed because the most powerful woman in the universe laughed at my jokes. Because she looked at me not as a subject or a curiosity but as an equal, because somewhere between defiance and laughter, we'd found something that neither empire nor species could name. If you ever find yourself in a galaxy that takes itself too seriously, remember the human rule of survival: laugh loud, love harder, and never underestimate the power of a good sandwich. And if an empress ever tells you, you can choose any woman you want, human, you already know the right answer.